Welcome back to the Haunted Beard, everybody. Thank you for joining me. So, I have been going through and reviewing the entire Alien franchise leading up to the new release of Alien Romulus, and today I'm going to be talking about Alien Covenant. This came out in 2017, and it takes place 10 years after the events of Prometheus, and we see the Covenant spaceship. It is a colony ship headed for a distant planet to colonize and bring new life to this brand new planet. Only an unexpected transmission signal is received, and they discover this nearby planet that is also potentially habitable and conducive to life. They decide to go investigate and check out this new planet. But of course, things do not go according to plan, and they happen to come upon the most terrifying creature in the entire galaxy, the alien xenomorph. And having just rewatched this the other day, this is actually my first rewatch since seeing it when it originally came out in theaters. And so there was a lot about this that I didn't remember, and a lot of it kind of felt like I was almost watching it for the very first time. And trying to think back and remember my initial reaction to it, I remember enjoying the movie quite a bit and having a pretty good time with it. And giving it a rewatch, though, it doesn't quite hold up as much as I had hoped it would, as there's still quite a bit of entertainment to be had here, but ultimately it is a bit unsatisfying of an experience. Now, the positives for me in Alien Covenant, first off, you got the visuals. And look, this is a movie that, it's a big budget production. You're expecting it to look good, and it does. And a lot of that, goes to Ridley Scott and just kind of his creation and vision for this whole thing. I really just like the alien world, the alien universe. And so while it is entertaining, it's entertaining in kind of a more surface level popcorn entertainment type movie. The concept of humans traveling to alien planets and battling alien creatures is, again, entertaining enough from kind of a popcorn surface level entertainment. And so there is some of that element that I kind of appreciate and have a good enough time with. There is some good scenes of tension and just the overall intensity of the entire experience. I also feel like Alien Covenant is probably the most bloodiest and goriest installment in the Alien franchise. And so I kind of like that Ridley Scott sort of upped the alien carnage sort of thing a little bit. You get some pretty gnarly scenes here. You get some chest buster scenes that are good. You get some gnarly body horror that's good. And so again, there's enough here to at least have an enjoyable time. I also like that the character of David is here. I think Michael Fassbender, again, is great, as I complimented him quite a bit in my previous review talking about Prometheus. But here you kind of get a double dose because he's also playing the character of Walter. And you get some of those kind of weird, bizarre, almost awkward scenes where the two of them are together and talking and, having conversation and stuff. And it's just kind of this odd sort of bizarre feel to it. But I kind of like those scenes. They kind of just add a different bit of a flavor. And again, I think Fassbender is very good in the role. And one of the most interesting aspects of his character that I talked about in my review of Prometheus is that he is kind of an enigma. He is a mystery, and you don't really know what's his motivation, why is he doing what he's doing, and stuff like that. Is he just simply programmed because that's how Weyland has programmed him, or is there something else going on that I know he's a robot, but it almost feels like he is this autonomous creation, that he has motivations and reasons for doing the things that he's doing outside of just his programming. And so I find that aspect of his character really interesting. And I was thinking about this as I was watching the movie, because oftentimes we think, the main antagonist, the main villain of these films, and particularly Covenant, is the alien xenomorph. But I think David is equally as evil. And maybe even more so, because the alien is just acting in accordance with its nature. Like, that's just what it did. That's what it is and what it does. But can you say the same thing about David? And when you find out what he does with regards to him killing Shaw and then unleashing the pathogen on the engineers and essentially committing genocide and wiping out their entire species, who's more evil? Right? And again, it kind of comes back to, is David just simply acting in accordance with how he was programmed? And so that's just his nature. And so is he really evil, or is he just programmed to do this? Or again, is there something else to his character? Is there sort of this, I don't know, free will element that is also kind of within his character? I don't know. Thinking about that is just kind of interesting and fascinating to me. I really like his character, and it kind of brings up some thought-provoking stuff. So I like that aspect of this movie as well. Now, before I kind of get into the negatives, I have one thing that's a little more mixed. And I like how the film ends. I like that there's this kind of reveal that it's not really Walter, it's just David, and then seeing the look on Katherine Waterston's face when she's in the hibernation chamber, and you know, the realization hits her of just, you know, pure horror, and she knows that it's David and not Walter. I like that the film ends on this dark note. However, it's, again, unsatisfying because Ridley Scott never got to continue the story. And so it kind of gives us this sort of cliffhanger, unsatisfying ending because we don't get to see what happens. And so I like that he ends it on that note, but it's ultimately a bummer because we don't get to see what happens. Now, regarding the negatives, a lot of them are very similar to some of the negatives that I had with Prometheus, although I would say they are more egregious, and it really has to do with dumb characters making more dumb decisions. Now, with the exception of David, we're introduced to a whole brand new cast of characters, and I think the two, I guess, kind of main leads, Billy Crudup and Katherine Waterston, they do a pretty good job. The rest of them are kind of just there in the background. You don't really get a whole lot to them. I'll give a little shout out to Danny McBride, though. Very kind of different to see him in this type of a role, but I think he does a pretty good job. I think his performance is pretty convincing. I think he pulls it off pretty well. But some of the main issues that I have is, first of all, they find this planet nearby that they just spent however many years investigating, you know, the universe and where they're getting ready to go, and scanning and detecting all these different potentially habitable planets, and somehow they miss this one. And so it all of a sudden just kind of pops up, and it's like, all right, I mean, I guess it just kind of seems like extremely convenient that they would just sort of find this planet that just happens to be almost perfectly, you know, sustainable for life kind of thing. And then they go to the planet, and I just can't help but think, like, listen, I know that the planet is conducive to life and you can breathe without the helmet and the spacesuit, but it's like, dude, this is a completely alien planet, and you're just going to land without a spacesuit and go exploring without any sort of protective measure from the atmosphere. It just seems so egregiously stupid that it's like, come on, guys, what are we doing? And of course, because of that very reason, you get the kind of aerosol version of the black goo that eventually makes its way into some of the crew, and I mean, you know what happens from there. Now, the sequence that occurs after that takes place and a couple of the crew members get infected with the black goo, it's a good sequence from just kind of this intensity perspective, because, you know, we know nothing good's getting ready to happen. We know all hell's about to break loose sort of thing, and, you know, they're bringing one of them back to the medical pod in the little spaceship that they've landed there. And so you've got this nice kind of really extreme, intense, over-the-top situation unfolding. And so the two women bring this guy into the medical bay, and, you know, he's totally freaking out. His body is just, he's losing it. They don't know what the heck's going on. It's pure horror. And then Amy Simons' character locks the other woman in there, and then, you know, she's trying to, like, comfort the guy as he's completely freaking out, and she, like, goes around to, like, give him a hug, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, stay away from him. You have no idea what's going on, man. I would be as far away from this guy as possible. And so it's just like, it's another thing that it's like, why are you doing this? This is the dumbest thing. Get away from him. There's a couple other things that I could kind of complain about, although I kind of understand the reason why the characters made this decision. When Danny McBride, his character's name's Tennessee, there's a storm that breaks out, and they can't land the main mothership on the planet because it's too dangerous. Well, he basically just gets to the point and says, screw it, I'm going to take my chances, which is extremely stupid. However, kind of given the circumstances, it's kind of like an emergency situation, so he just decides to go down there to try to rescue him at the expense of killing himself and the rest of the crew. So it's stupid, but I kind of understand. There's another couple instances where people are firing guns inside the spaceship, which, again, is incredibly stupid, although it's like I kind of understand because they're trying to kill the alien, but it's like, you know, if you puncture the hull of the ship, everybody's screwed. So, again, it's one of those things where it's like, it's stupid, but I kind of understand the reasoning. Another thing about this movie that I think is a bummer is how they just kill off Shaw's character. It's just a bummer because I liked her character and I really would have liked to have gotten more of her and you know, seen more of her character. So the fact that she's not even in the movie, except you see a couple of her pictures, is just kind of a bummer. And then ultimately the movie just kind of feels incomplete, which is really what I said about the ending, that I like the note it ends on, but we're still kind of left with, like, there's more story to tell, and it feels incomplete, and so, again, it just kind of leaves you with this unsatisfying note, because, you know, here we are 7 years later, and there's not going to be any follow-up to this, and so it's just kind of a bummer. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on Alien Covenant. It's an entertaining enough time, but I definitely have some issues with it. Again, it kind of comes down to just some dumb characters making some really stupid decisions. So, yeah. I wish, though, we could have at least gotten a third film from Scott to kind of cap off this trilogy and seen where he ultimately wanted to take the story, but it wasn't to be. So I think for me, for Alien Covenant, I'm going to be probably like a 6, maybe a 6.5 out of 10. There's still enough entertainment there that I can have a decent enough time with it, but again, fully acknowledging there is some stupid stuff here. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. Hit me up down below, though. Would love to hear your thoughts on Alien Covenant. And, yeah, that's all I got for you. So, up next, I'm excited. Looking forward to Alien Romulus. I'll be reviewing it when it comes out next week. At least that's a plan anyways. And then I'll cap off this whole thing doing an official ranking for all 9 movies. And, yeah, so thank you so much for watching. If you got anything out of this video, you know what to do. Do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.